Back in 2012, there was a game that looked like the future of open world gaming. A living city, real-time hacking, and graphics that looked almost too good to be true. Ubisoft called it Watch Dogs. And for a moment, it felt like the next big gaming franchise. But we fast forward a few years, and the series slowly disappeared from the spotlight. So what happened to Watch Dogs? Watch Dogs made its debut at Ubisoft's E3 2012 press conference, marking the introduction of a bold new franchise. As one of the first major titles teased for next-gen consoles, it showcased capabilities far beyond PS3 and Xbox 360 limitations, with developers running the demo on high-end PCs to demonstrate future potential. The hacking mechanic emerged as the defining innovation, enabling protagonists, Aiden Pierce, to profile citizens, hijack vehicles remotely, and disrupt infrastructure without traditional combat. This core loop differentiated Watch Dogs from contemporaries, promising innovative gameplay through digital manipulation in a persistent, reactive world. The on-stage demo left audiences in awe. Social media buzz exploded immediately, with posts declaring it the best game of E3. Industry outlets echoed this sentiment, awarding it multiple Best of E3 honors despite ineligibility, because the game wasn't out as yet. I still don't understand how that works. Ubisoft explicitly positioned Watch Dogs to rival Grand Theft Auto 5, targeting the same open-world crime demographic with hacking as its unique hook. Pre-release buzz framed it as a GTA killer, with Chicago's map scale compared favorably to Los Santos. This marketing fueled blockbuster anticipation, with Ubisoft projecting massive sales even before launch. Now, it's 2 years later, in 2014, and the Watch Dogs launch was marred with accusations of graphical downgrades, repetitive mission structures, and a protagonist perceived as unengaging. The controversies stemmed from high expectations set by early demonstrations, only for the final product to undeliver in key areas. While core hacking mechanics innovated on open-world formulas, the execution flaws eroded player trust, particularly around how the game looked and the depth of content. Ubisoft's responses, often defensive, fueled further backlash, prompting internal policy reviews on pre-release demos. The most prominent issue was the perceived graphics downgrade from the E3 2012 demo to the final release, where lighting, textures, and effects appeared noticeably inferior. Digital Foundry's analysis highlighted reduced dynamic weather effects, lower resolution shadows, and flatter ambient occlusion in the retail version compared to the demo's high-fidelity, rain-slicked Chicago streets. Side-by-side comparisons of the DeMarco mission showed the E3 build with superior global illumination and particle effects, which were simplified for performance across consoles. Ubisoft attributed the changes to finalizing hardware specs for PS4 and Xbox One, claiming the E3 demo ran on high-end PC tech, not representative of target platforms. Console versions suffer further, with PS3 and Xbox 360 ports exhibiting even coarser textures and pop-in. This disparity eroded consumer confidence, as even maxed-out PC settings failed to fully match the demo's promise. PC launch compounded problems with poor optimization, driver crashes, and stuttering, later patched but damaging initial impressions. Gameplay drew fire for repetitive missions dominated by tailing, chases, and basic hacks, lacking variety. Combat and driving were criticized as clunky, with gameplay inferior to contemporaries. The protagonist, Aiden Pierce, faced widespread ridicule as a brooding, emotionless vigilante lacking charisma, with critics stating his revenge-driven story felt cliched, with hypocritical hacking morals alienating players. Despite flaws, Watch Dogs sold over 10 million copies in its lifetime, with 8 million shipped by mid-2014. Over a decade later, in 2026, I decided to check out Watch Dogs again, without all the drama and controversies. And to my surprise, the game doesn't really look all that dated. It ran and looked pretty good for a 2012 game, on PC obviously. The story and the world is pretty good, but I was never a fan of the dark theme. But at least it wasn't cringy or too edgy, I guess for 2026 standards. Looking back at Watch Dogs has shown me that 12 years later, the gaming industry hasn't really changed all that much. The same criticism people had for Watch Dogs are the same things we complain about, from the graphics to the gameplay. I don't know if that's because of consumers or developers. It's probably both. Overall, Watch Dogs' launch controversies damaged its legacy despite its blockbuster sales. And because of its commercial success, Ubisoft decided to make Watch Dogs 2. Released in November 2016, it serves as a direct sequel to the 2014 original Watch Dogs, marking a significant evolution in the hacking-themed open-world action-adventure series. The game introduces players to a fresh narrative centered on digital activism against corporate overreach, positioning it as a redemption attempt for the franchise after mixed reception to the first title's darker, more grounded tone. This sequel shifts from Chicago's gritty cyberpunk aesthetic to a vibrant, sunlit San Francisco Bay Area, emphasizing co-op multiplayer, vehicle customization, and seamless gadget integration for a more playful experience. The new protagonist, Marcus Holloway, replaces Aiden Pierce as the playable hacker, depicted as a charismatic tech whiz from Oakland with street-smart hacking skills and a laid-back personality. This change brings youthfulness and relatability, allowing for expressive animations and seamless parkour that feels more fluid than Pierce's rigid movements. Marcus's backstory involves being blacklisted by CTOS after exposing systematic biases, tying into themes of racial injustice and privacy erosion in modern tech. Watch Dogs 2 adopts a comedic, optimistic tone with witty dialogue, meme references, and absurd hacker pranks. This humor manifests in side missions with viral video stunts and DedSec's chaotic operations, moving away from the original's grim revenge plot. The sandbox gameplay emphasized freedom with non-linear missions, customizable vehicles, and thousands of interactables supporting the chaos. However, despite the critical acclaim over the original Watch Dogs 2 launched with slower sales, shipping only 4 million copies in its first month, compared to the original game's 8 million day one record. Watch Dogs 2 is my favorite game in the series, from the atmosphere, the world, the cast, the story, and the gameplay. Everything about Watch Dogs 2 was an improvement from the original Watch Dogs, like how most games should be. It successfully pivoted the franchise toward engaging sandbox hacking and humor, earning superior reviews as the series' best. And this was a good sign for the series, showing that Ubisoft was taking a step in the right direction with the series. So obviously, the next game would be an improvement, or at least just as good as Watch Dogs 2. Oh boy, was I wrong. Watch Dogs Legion represents Ubisoft's boldest experiment in the open-world hacking series, shifting from traditional protagonists to a revolutionary play-as-anyone system set in a dystopian London. Released on November 10, 2020, the game eliminates a single hero narrative in favor of recruiting and controlling thousands of procedurally generated citizens. This ambition aimed to create a gameplay where players build a resistance from the city's populace, each operative bringing unique backstories, skills, and permissions to navigate a privatized post-Brexit London under authoritarian control. The setting draws from real-world surveillance anxieties, Brexit fallout, and urban decay, transforming iconic landmarks like Trafalgar Square and Buckingham Palace into hacker playgrounds patrolled by drones and private security. By foregoing a fixed cast, Ubisoft sought infinite replayability through procedural generation. But this core innovation sparked debates on emotional depth versus mechanical novelty. The game's development spanned several Ubisoft studios, leveraging advanced AI for NPC behaviors as a census system to generate over 9 million unique, playable characters. This scale promised a living city where every pedestrian could join DedSec, via recruitment mechanics involving persuasion, blackmail, or drink spiking. Ubisoft's vision scaled to thousands of playable characters, each with 40+ hours of unique dialogue lines and procedural missions adapting to team composition. Quantum-inspired systems generate behaviors, ensuring no two playthroughs were identical, with AI handling crowd simulation for immersion. This broke Ubisoft norms, rethinking narrative around ensemble casts via story modules assigned to any operative. However, this lack of emotional connection with the absence of a protagonist eroded narrative investment. And with all of this, the missions recycled Ubisoft formulas: hacking, stealth tales, combat. Watch Dogs Legion is my least favorite game in the series, and it's mainly because of how the game felt and looked. Going into Watch Dogs Legion, I was expecting the game to look and feel like Watch Dogs 2, with some improvements, but in my opinion, it looks worse than the first Watch Dogs and plays similar to it, combined with the inability to actually feel connected to a specific character, and you have a downgraded game. Now, the play as anyone feature is cool as a concept, but as a single-player story-driven game, it takes away from the immersion. It felt like they wanted to go the route of GTA 5, where you can play as 3 different characters, but that worked because you can immerse yourself in their lives. Unfortunately, with the play as anyone, you kinda don't get to immerse yourself into those characters because they don't really have much of a story. They're like tools you use to accomplish your goal. It makes them seem like soulless puppets we as players control. The Watch Dogs series promised to push open world games forward, and in many ways, it did. But after years of trying to figure out its identity, the franchise slowly faded into the background. Whether Watch Dogs Legion ends up being the final entry remains to be seen. But if Ubisoft ever decides to reboot the series, I hope they bring back something the franchise lost along the way: a strong central protagonist. Because sometimes one great character can do more for a story than a million random ones. But let me know what you think. Did you enjoy the play as anyone feature in Watch Dogs Legion? Which Watch Dogs game was your favorite? Let me know down in the comments, and please be sure to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.